Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for holding this hearing today so we can discuss some of this important legislation that affects our veterans. I want to thank you also for including my bill, the Medal of Honor Legacy Act. We have heard estimates from the Arlington National Cemetery that they're going to be at capacity within 2 decades, so we need to have a plan for what we're going to do there at the cemetery, and we certainly need to include in that plan our Medal of Honor recipients. In the history of our country, we've awarded more than 3,400 Medal of Honors since the Declaration's creation 155 years ago. 361 of these recipients are buried at Arlington, and there are 77 living recipients still with us today. So the purpose of this legislation would be to ensure that they have a place at Arlington for these very few, very special servicemen and women who have received this highest honor. We worked with the Army and the VSO and guiding our language, and we thank them for their help, and we've tried to redraft the bill so that it includes their suggestions. I understand, though, that they'd like to lower the number of places that we're going to set aside in the bill and to use this as an opportunity to plan future uses of Arlington. I think that's all fine, and planning is good, but I don't want that to become an excuse for not getting it done. Too often when we say we're going to do a study, that means we're going to put it on the shelf and we don't know when anything will happen, so we don't want that to be the case here. I also am very supportive of the bill that, or the policy to help veterans who have lost the use of a reproductive organ. These are veterans who have put everything on the line for the country, and now these IEDs have made the injury more prevalent. So we want to do all we can to help them start a family. I don't want us to do it kind of in a halfway manner, though. If we're going to do it, we should do it right, and we should do it so that it covers the problem and provides a benefit that really does make a difference and can be taken advantage of to address this challenge. Also, I'd just like to point out that since there's not a lot of discussion between the two sides prior to these legislative meetings, 2 issues that I hope that we will consider in the future. One that I've talked about for several years, and that's how to address the appeals process to get ahead of it so that we don't have the serious backlog problem that we have now with just the application for benefits. I know that the VSOs are working on this. The VA has said it's a priority. I hope that we'll have a real substantive hearing on some of the ways to address that legislatively. And finally, once again, and I will say this as long as I am here, I'm disappointed that the legislation I requested that we would consider today, H.R. 1598, which is the Veteran Spouses Equal Treatment Act, was not included. This is simply to bring the VA in line with the Supreme Court decision so that we recognize spouses of all genders, that we don't say a spouse has to be a member of the opposite sex. This is just outdated legislation or language in legislation that needs to be updated. Doesn't extend any kind of rights, doesn't impose on states' rights, doesn't say you support gay marriage. It simply brings the language up to date. So I hope that at some point, since there's bipartisan support for that and the VA supports it and VSOs have said they support it, that we'll consider that legislation. And with that, I yield back.
Thank you, Ms. Titus. Chairman Miller, I appreciate you taking time to be here today. You are now recognized to discuss your bills.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.